All right, let me start by saying this. I believe business content has been overly complicated. It's been a whole bunch of people talking about a whole bunch of nothing. Lord, please forgive me. But I think people, there's so much content out there, there's so much noise out there that when it comes to starting a business, it seems overwhelming. It seems like I don't know where to start. Like, do I need to build an audience? Do I need to start an LLC? Like, do I need to get an S corp? Like, all of these different things. And what I've noticed is I see a lot of people making fragmented content. And when I mean fragmented, I mean you'll see people that are saying how to build a business from 0 to 1 million, which I think is just not even like, I don't think it's responsible. Like, I get it. Like, you're giving people the pathway to hope to know that there is a pathway to 1 million. But I think sometimes it's easier to just get to the 100,000 and then figure out the next way of the path to the 1 million, because those are very different paths and very different steps. However, that doesn't get clicks, like 100,000 six figures don't get as many clicks as seven figures nowadays, right? And so when you're thinking about starting a business, you have this pressure in your mind to reach these astronomical numbers on day one. And it don't work like that. Versus if people just came on and just said what business is, which is find something people want to buy from you and sell it. It it's just that simple, okay? But then you have the people that's giving you the path to 1 0 to a million, great, right? But then you have the other people who are telling you the business structure side of it, and they're like, start with your S corp and get you a life insurance plan and put that under, like, get you a business bank account and then put that in your trust name, and then, like you said, like, what? What are we doing? Okay. And I'm telling you, that content is fraudulent. Okay. And if you don't know who I am, which you more than likely don't, my name is Deanna Brooks. I am a CPA, certified public accountant. I have helped many of small business owners over the past 4 years. I've been doing this. Yes, I've been a CPA for over 10 years, actually, but I've been helping people with their small businesses for the past 4 years. And so I've helped people at many different levels, whether you're making seven figures a month, I've helped those people. And I've also helped people who are just now cracking their first $100 online, right? And so when I say, when I'm telling you what could cost me my license, knowing better, if I come online and if I'm telling you that something is fraudulent, believe it is fraudulent, okay? And so I think that people are doing people a disservice by giving all this overly complicated advice. And I think it's keeping people scared to make their first move. And the thing about business is it's all about momentum, it's all about action. And so you have to take the first step to even get to thinking about a seven figure year, right? And so I just want to break this down, make this very simple for most of the people here. I am in a hurry, in a rush, and I almost didn't film this. But when we said we got to be consistent, I said, girl, you better press play. Okay, that's a word for some of y'all who's been holding out and using excuses as to why you ain't started. Okay. But, anyways, come on back. Let's get into it. So I'm going to give you guys 8 steps to start your business from idea, from non-idea. Let's be clear, from non-idea to all the way to you actually making money moves out here in these streets. Okay. And I'm not giving you no guarantees of $1 million in a year, because most of those promises are keeping y'all stuck to $0 a year. Okay. But that's neither here nor there. I'm giving this from the standpoint of I'm also restarting my business as well. If you have not checked out my other video about why I believe God was telling me to close down my accounting practice, please go check that out. I'll have it linked. But essentially, because I'm going on this journey to restart what I believe God is actually calling me to start, I decided to let me document the process while I'm going along with you guys. So I'm not like coming at you guys, yelling at you guys from the standpoint of some guru who hasn't done this in 15 million years. Like you started your business 15 million years ago and now you making 10 figures a year. Like, no, that's not what I'm starting this saying this from somebody who has helped many of people start businesses. And now I believe God is calling me to start a new business, one that aligns with his calling for my life. So with that, I want to give you guys fresh the steps and why I'm taking each step, right? And so some of that is going to include the practical legal stuff, right? Like when to get an LLC and all that stuff like that, and which one to get and break that all down. But most of it is going to be about the practical of how to start one, right? So I'm going to be combining that. I'm not going to be segmenting that information. I'm going to be combining that. If you guys hear a lot of rumble and tumble in the background, please forgive me. Your girl had to wash her towels because it was getting a little out of control. Okay. And because I had no more excuses left, given that I need to get this published by tomorrow morning, okay, I had to do what I had to do, even though I got a time limit that is like trying to cut me off mid sentence. Okay. I hope that makes sense. I be rambling. Stay with me, please. Thank you. Okay. So, first, we're going to start with the why. All right. So, when I mean start with your why, first of all, you need to understand why you want to start a business in the first place, because if you don't know why you're starting a business, one, when the times get hard and you want to quit, because they will, you need an why to anchor you back to why you ain't got no other choice. Like it has to work where it has to work, right? You really got to get to that point, because when I tell you how many times I was like, screw this, like why am I doing this? Why? It's because of my why that keeps me going. Also, the second thing as to why you want to why is because if you understand why your motive, then that will inform the next step of clarifying your call, like your purpose. So, clarifying the vision, right? And I'm looking at my notes. Please forgive me, okay? We are a newbie out here in these streets. But clarifying your vision. So, what is your vision for your business? That's going to be predicated on your why. Let me give you some practical examples, okay? If you are somebody who you got a family, right? And the coins is not coining the way you need them to coin to get your kids right, to get your family right, and you don't want to be under somebody else's neck, feeling like your life is beholden to the slavery of the wages of the world, and you feel handcuffed and you feel like you can't provide the way that you want to provide because you're limited in your time and your income, right? Let's say that's you. More than likely, right? The why of your kids being your why is going to keep you anchored. Every single time them kids ask for something and you can't provide it, that's going to be anchoring you to like keep it moving. But also, what it's going to do is going to help you define your vision, right? Because you are a busy mom, meaning you don't have that much free time. What you are probably looking for is a lifestyle business so that you can provide for you and your family's lifestyle, right? And so, with a lifestyle business, you may not be wanting to go out on a limb and start a new AI SaaS business that's going to take on $50 million in funding in a Series A and then be launched on the New York Times as an IPO in 2 years. You may not want to do that. And I know that sounds like I'm being extra, sure, but in a practical sense, like let's say that you want to start, you see people starting candle making businesses, right? And so you say, let me start a candle making business. I love candles. I got some extra time to do some candles. Let me go do that, right? But you don't realize how much money is going to go into making the raw materials, how much time it takes to perfect your recipe and getting it the way that you like it. But then once you get it the way you like it, now you gotta sell it. And when you sell something, now it's not just about you and when you're liking, it's about the audience's liking, your market's liking. And so then you try to figure out the whole thing about marketing. How do I start? Where do I go? Do I start in these markets like, these like farmers markets, or do I go and try to get it into a store? Do I try to, sell it online? And what you're going to realize is that the marketing piece is going to take up a significant part of your business because you're going to be constantly making content, putting it on short form. You may be trying to reach out to influencers to promote your stuff for you. You may be like, you're going to be breaking your neck, right? To figure out how to get people to buy your stuff. Now, once you figure that out, now you got to fulfill. Now you gotta actually make the batches and the huge batches of candles, but you ain't got the time to market and make candles. Nor do you got the money to keep making these candles if nobody's buying because this stuff is expensive, right? Your Shopify account is expensive, right? And so now you're in this cycle where you're like, okay, I gotta hire somebody, but I don't want to hire no random person to come in and help me make candles. Let me let me get my kids to do this with me. Okay, cool, fine. You get the kids doing. But what you realize is that at a certain point, let's say you do become successful and you do start hitting some big numbers or whatever the case may be, now you need reliable employees that's going to actually deliver the service that is demanded upon you as the business owner, right? So your customers are demanding a quality product, but maybe your kids can't produce that quality product in the timing that they need to produce it. So then you're like, okay, I gotta hire, but I'm still not at the point where I can afford an outside warehouse. So what do I do? You see all this stress that you done brought into your life for some $20 candles, and the $20, like that is, first of all, once you get through paying for all the other stuff, you looking at negative $200, okay? And then on top of that, if you do get some type of scale to manage that type of scale, it's not going to do what you need to do to pay the bills that you're trying to pay. And now you have less time with your kids, you have less focus, you're more burnt out, you're more stressed. And it's all because you said, I'm going to start something so that I could take care of my kids. But you may have started the wrong thing, not understanding that your why requires something that is less time intensive, less labor intensive, less money intensive, right? And so that's why understanding your why is so important. Because let's move on to step number 2, clarifying your vision. Now, if you have not watched my other video where I talked about the different types of businesses that I thought about, and I just suggest you go watch that. That would be helpful, right? But I want to touch on certain things here, and I'm just going to start with a quadrant of 4 businesses. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm only going to stick to online, right? Because if you're talking brick and mortar, that's a whole nother beast, okay? So if you want to sell in a physical place, if you want to sell retail, if you want to do all that type of stuff, that's a whole nother beast for a whole nother day. Okay. But let's say for this situation, you want to start an online business. Okay, great. So like I said, with the e-commerce business, let's say I'm making candles, there's pros and cons to offering a product versus a service. And so that's the first place that you want to start, is whether you want to actually offer a service or a product. Now, here's the thing. If you are a busy mom that needs a lot more cash and a lot more bang for your buck early on, you may do well starting off with a service-based business because you can demand higher ticket amounts, right? Thinking like $1,000 to $5,000 per service. That gives you the cash flow that you need to reinvest in maybe some coaching, into some help, some contractors, into systems. You see what I'm saying? Like you get more, and then you only need to work with maybe 1 to 2 to 3 different clients to get what you need to provide for you and your family. And as you start doing right by those 1 to 2, 3 different clients, they start talking to you about to their friends, and they start going gun ho about you. You know what I mean? And then let's say you throw content on top of that, you can easily get to higher numbers more quickly than you could if you were doing a product-based business. Now, here's the reason why I'm not doing a service-based business anymore. Here's the reason why I believe God told me to shut down my service-based business. Is because you also got to understand your temperament and your time availability and all these different things. And what I mean by that is what I started to realize is that one-on-one service requires a lot out of me personally. Like the clients, like if I'm doing your taxes, you want to work with me. You don't want to work with my admin. You want to work with me. And so in my situation currently, I'm at a 9 to 5 at the current moment because I did not like needing to take on anything and everything, right? Just to pay my bills. I was not comfortable with that because especially when you're dealing with people that may have found you online, may have found you on Instagram or whatever the case may be, some of them may not be an ideal fit for you to work with. But if the bill said, I don't care about you trying to find your perfect client, I need to be paid today. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna do what you need to do to pay these bills, and then you end up building something that may more be more stressful, something that you did not intend to build. And then with me personally, I because I have a 9 to 5, I don't have the time to do the one-on-one discovery calls, right? To be able to flesh out whether I'm going to take on a client or not, right? So, especially when it gets into my busy seasons and like right now, it's a busy time at work. So that's why I thought I wasn't even going to be able to come on and make this video. But in that situation, let's say I had a client that scheduled a one-on-one call, like a discovery call with me at, let's say, typically when I would get home from work at 6. But then let's say that this was a day where I had to stay at work a little bit later and they're not trying to hear that I need to leave and not make this deadline because I got this one-on-one call for my personal business. They're not trying to hear that. You see what I'm saying? So then I'm over here talking to this other client, telling them, okay, I gotta reschedule you for another time. Do you like at that point you're like, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like if you're the client that's trying to do a one-on-one call to see if you want to work with me, you're probably gonna be like, I'm good. At least the quality ones, right? You may have some people that are desperate that would say, all right, fine, whatever. But sometimes you don't want to work with people who are in desperate situations because you may not be able to deliver on their desperate needs. Okay, that's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. All right. So, with that being the case, and me knowing that also one-on-one interactions also create a lot of anxiety for me. So, as someone who deals with clinical anxiety, right? If I know that there's something that provokes anxiety in me, especially if the whole business model is revolved around me doing things that provoke anxiety, then that literally puts my health at risk, right? Which is what happened. And that's what landed me in the hospital because I thought I could take on an unlimited amount of stress and anxiety and be okay. But my body said, no, ma'am. Okay. So at some point, I was like, you know what? This is literally too painful to keep this going, nor do I enjoy it. Like I enjoy helping people, but I enjoy helping people in the ways that I'm gifted to help them. For example, I love teaching people, right? That's one of my giftings. I love talking and writing and doing all these different things. Those are one of my giftings. So I love like exhorting to people, right? I don't like explaining to them why they gotta pay $1 million tax bill and why I can't do nothing about it because they should have came to me 2 years ago so that I could have their stuff cleaned up. Like I don't want to have those conversations. That's not my gifting. Not me. Okay. So, with that being the case, I saw that a service based business was not gelling with my time, my lifestyle, my giftings. It wasn't doing it for me. So then that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to go the product based route. Now, the thing with the product based route is that it is more scalable, right? It is a way to deliver more that is not bound to your time, which is the biggest thing that I need, right? For my purposes. However, the thing is, it's going to take a lot longer. Like, I'm working on a guided journal right now that I want to post on Amazon KDP, and I also want to promote it on this channel. So yeah, it's coming, it's in the works, but there's only so much that a $17 journal could get me in terms of the ability to do what I need to do for the business, right? It's going to take a lot longer of a runway to build what I need to build. Now, the thing that works for me is that it's digital. It doesn't require, I may do like a print on demand type of service or whatever the case may be, so that it doesn't require me ordering a bunch of inventory up front because I don't have the bandwidth to take on that type of risk, especially before I have proven the concept that people even want this from me, right? And so, with that being the case, I understand that it may not get me there to my destination as quickly as I would like to, but it's what's going to work for me and my temperament and my business style and what I need for my liking for my life, right? There now you could sell physical products too, but like I said, there's a an investment that it requires. There's a lot that it requires that if you don't have the time, the money, the energy to put in, and the money to cover these tariffs and all the other stuff that be happening that you can't control, right? Then it might be a little difficult. But some people have this brilliant idea. Maybe God has put something on your heart, a product that solves a real problem for people, and it's sitting on your soul, and it's like the world needs it. Then that is what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? And then that's going to be what brings you success and fulfillment and all those type of things, right? So it's really coming down to like getting before God and figuring out, okay, God, what is my why and what is the vision that you are giving me? Okay. And then figuring out how to build a business around that. So once we figure it out, what kind of business that you decide that you want to create, right? So for me, I decided I'm going to stick with the digital product situation. Now I want to see and evaluate, okay, what am I gifted to be able to give to the world? And so for me, I have a passion about giving people clarity. So clarity is a big thing for me, right? That's why we're called to clarity over here, right? Calling and clarity is something that's big for me. So there are certain things that I can help people get clear on, whether it's their purpose, their calling, their business, their about the Bible, like how to understand it, how to read it. So those are the areas that I believe that God is calling me to help people in, right? Because there's a lot of confusion out here. So that's a real problem that needs a solution. So the question is, okay, how do I solve that for people in the form of a digital product, right? Versus like, so for my situation, if I'm creating guided journals, that's going to be something that's like a print on demand type of situation where all I got to do is produce the digital form and the other company that I'm working with will produce the rest. Then in that situation, what could I produce that will help people solve the problem that they need, right? And that's when we get into step number 3, which is doing your market research. So at this point, you really got to know what is it that people want. Because if you come out here and sell us something that you just feel like you just needed your whole life and it's been great and dandy, it may or it may not do well. Why? Because we don't know if you are a unicorn out here and you the only person that need this, which more than likely you don't. But we don't know if people are willing to pay for this yet. So that's the thing. You want to create something that people are willing to pay for. And so the way that you do that is to literally test, put stuff, iterate, right? Like for me, what I started doing is I started leveraging AI and Perplexity and Claude and Notebook LM and all these different sites to search threads, like Reddit threads of like what people are complaining about. I did that right before I started this video. Like, what are people complaining about with respect to clarity in their vision and in their mission, and as a Christian, how are they starting businesses, like what's holding them back from starting a business? Like those are the things that I started researching. I started looking at Reddit threads to figure out what are people saying, right? So now that I know what they're saying, I know how to message my content for them to reach them, right? And so depending on, you know, if I'm building my product specifically to solve their needs and what they are asking for, right? Then once I launch, or maybe if I do a pre-sale, that will help me determine if people want it or not, right? And so once you really got to actually put something out there though to figure it out. Like you can either put something out there in the form of you are manually reaching out to people. That's called outbound. And as we're getting into this, we're just gonna go ahead and get to step 4, which is marketing and lead generation. Now, this needs a whole nother video in of itself, probably several videos, because there's several different types of marketing and lead generation. And more than likely, when you're watching a YouTube video about how to start your business, you're going to see a lot of people focus on the marketing part of it, which is a big part of it, but it's not everything. And so when it comes to the other pieces that are a little bit confusing, you're like, where does this fit in? Hint, hint, like, you see, I haven't brought up an LLC yet, right? That was intentional, right? But with all of the different noise out here in these streets, you have people that are telling you to approach building a business from these different aspects, but they all come together. You need to understand how they come together, okay? So now that I've gotten a concept that I think that people want from my market research, now I want to start reaching out to people. I want to start making people aware that I have the solution for them. Do you want it, right? And so the reason why this kind of blurs in from the market research into the marketing is because when you're doing market research, that could also include you reaching out to people, DMing them, saying, "Hey, what is something that keeps you up at night? What is something that, maybe a little bit more targeted than that? Because, there's a lot of stuff that keep me up at night, and I'm not about to tell a random stranger on Instagram about that. But you know what I mean? Like, if you have like a more targeted approach of like, hey, I have this thing that is solution, da da da. Would you be willing to try it for free or whatever? If you were to give it to free for like 3 or 4 people, right? Then you can then turn that into your marketing by getting them a result and using that result to tell the world, hey, I have this solution that has worked for these few people over here. Do you want it too? Right? And in marketing, there's so many different aspects of it. There's the branding, right? So when you create your own personal brand, because that's a big buzzword here on YouTube, right? When you create your own personal brand, you allow people to designate themselves as whether they are your people or not your people, right? So then you are drawing people to you. That's called attraction marketing. When you are just putting yourself out there, you're telling people what you stand for, what you don't stand for, why they should rock with you, why they shouldn't rock with you. Those people spend time with you. Naturally, they want to come to you and buy from you. So that's called inbound. That's called attraction marketing. When you put out something into the world and let whoever wants it come to you. Versus there's also outbound marketing. Outbound marketing, you may just go straight to cold calling, like where you're calling people randomly from a list of phone numbers and saying, hey, do you want this? Or when you're cold emailing, meaning that you're just finding emails and you're reaching out saying, hey, do you want this? Or you're DMing, or you know what I mean? So those are all different ways of outbound marketing. And then you have ads. Now, ads can, I feel like, fit in the realm of like inbound. But the thing about ads is that it allows you the option to forcefully, and I hate that word, but forcefully put yourself out there. So the thing about ads and outbound is that you're not just waiting like all lolly dolly dee for somebody to come to you and say that they want your thing. You are reaching out to them. And then at that time, it becomes a numbers game. And if you got the numbers to sustain it, meaning if you got the time and the money to put in the effort to do those things, your business could probably start taking off faster than somebody who is sitting there trying to build a brand to attract people to them, AKA me. Okay. So the way that I'm going about this time is that I am focusing on building a brand for myself here on YouTube, because that way that I can draw the people that want to learn from me, who want to buy from me or whatever the case, to me, right? And so that, and to get you to know, like, and trust me so that you'll get the idea of whether you trust me enough to buy from me or not. Because the thing is, in 2025 and beyond, it's going to be harder to get people to know, like, and trust you than maybe it did 3, 4, 5 years ago. Because a lot of scammers was out here scamming, okay, and doing all the things. And then money is getting real tight out here in these streets, and people are more discerning. So for me, that's why I'm playing the long game. Like, I want y'all to get to know me and get to trust me and to believe that I'm not going to do you wrong. I'm not going to be out here scamming you out here in these streets. So let me put out content that gets you to know me so that when I present you with a product that you need or that you may be interested in, you will have less hesitation to go ahead and press the purchase button, okay? Press the add to cart button, okay? So that's what I mean by marketing. And lead generation is just literally creating stuff that draws in more people into your funnel. Now, I know once I said funnel, I probably lost a few of y'all, but stick with me. That may be another video to discuss in another day because I don't want this to get too long. But just think of it like, for example, I'm going to have certain resources that are linked right in the description below that may require your email address. Or I also have a Skool community that I'm trying to build for a community of people. It's free right now. All of these things are free. So with that being the case, if somebody decides from watching this video that they want to join one of my free things, then they can join, and then they become part of like my ecosystem that is a potential lead, right? And then if I market to whoever these people are via email, and eventually they want something from me down in the future after I've nurtured them, after I talk to them, and they end up becoming a customer, that is the whole purpose of lead generation. The more leads you have, the more sales it will lead to, right? So that's what I mean by lead generation. And then that's when we get into the actual selling because yeah, so number 5, selling, launching, just putting it out there and actually making the conversion happen. So this is when you finally launch your product. This is when you finally say, "Hey, buy my product." Like the marketing piece where you were telling people about the problem you solve. Now you're like, "Hey, now buy my solution," right? Now, here's the thing. Some people will tell you that you want to establish your LLC and all that stuff and get all of that set up before you make your first sale. That's not my philosophy, right? That's not how I roll. And I'm a CPA. So you would think it's in my best interest to tell you to come to me so I can start your LLC for you, which I'm not doing at the time. But you know what I mean? You have people who are in similar situations that's telling you, start your LLC, start building business credit, start doing this first. But I'm like, my thing is, can you start a business first before you start all this other stuff? Because you have a lot of people who are more attracted to the idea of getting money through their business than they are delivering a service through their business. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so I'm not here to like tell y'all to do all these things because here's the thing. What most people fail to realize is that just because you started a business does not mean that it's the business that you're going to love or that you are going to want to keep up with it or you're going to be in a position to keep up with it. You may have started the digital product business and then, I don't know, God gave you this recipe for a deodorant and then you decided to go that direction. Now you done started this LLC for this digital product business. Now you over here switching gears to this deodorant business. So now you gotta change your whole LLC. Now you gotta shut that LLC down. Now you gotta start a new one. You gotta get the EIN again, start the whole process up again, and tell the IRS that you're not a business. Like you see all these extra hoops that you gotta go through because you started a LLC for a business that you only sold 2 products in. Like it's too much, too much. So that's why I say launch. Figure out if you enjoy selling the product. Figure out if it's the product that people want from you. Because in the event that you got to pivot, now you have the room to pivot, right? Now, if you are in a situation where you're trying to jump straight into selling online, in those type of situations, depending on situations like states and all that stuff like that, you may need to start off with an LLC because if you are in a situation where you have to charge sales tax or collect and remit sales tax for your products, your physical products, I'm only talking about physical here. in some situations, maybe digital, depending on the state that you're in. But just holler at me, join my community if you got questions on that, because I would gladly answer for the free at this moment. Okay. Now, if you watching us a year from now and my Skool community is no longer free, I'm sorry. Okay. But still join anyway. But anyway, so if I am in a situation where you started a deodorant business or whatever the case may be, and your state is telling you got to remit sales tax, then you do have to start a LLC to be able to do that, because now you have to register a business with your state, and you have to actually register to be able to collect and remit sales tax on a monthly, quarterly, whatever basis with your state. And so that is going to require one. But other than that, if you just start any other business that does not require that, you are free to do what you need to do if you are not needing to be permitted and all these type of things. You see what I'm saying? And so I just say, start the business first. Figure out if you like it. Figure out if it's working for you. Figure out if you found your market and all that stuff. And then that's when you go into the next step, which is, hold on. Oh, my bad. Before that, before we get into the legal, number 6, I want you to get into the reevaluate, right? So that just comes with, once you launch, once you sell, and you get feedback from customers, right? Then you refine your product, reiterate, launch again, you know what I mean? And then that's when I recommend legalizing your business, when you know that this is a business that's generating income that you want to rock with, right? I would say, if you need a hard fast rule, it's hard for me to give a hard and fast rule because there is not one. Okay. And so whatever I'm telling you, I'm just making it up, right? But in my mind, after you've done sold 3 or 4 things and you're like, oh, this is the thing. I enjoy this. There are people that are coming to me, you know what I mean? Even if you sold 10, 15 on them things already, like, now it's time to, like, go ahead and put it in the LLC, right? Like, let's go ahead and legalize this at this point, because the more you sell, you do want to make sure that you have legal protection, so that if in the event that something you do creates any harm for any other person, if they were to come and sue you, they're not coming for you and your personal assets at that point. Okay. So that's why I say, go get an LLC, get your EIN for that LLC, register, get you a business bank account so that you can get that LLC properly set up. You hear me? And then, once you get your business bank account, then you set up your business bank account processing systems, like whatever payment processor you got going on. If you're on a Shopify, if you're on, like for me, I'm using system.io, then I would set up like all of my banking information with the new system that I'm using, system.io, and all that stuff like that. And so that whenever I collect money, it's going straight into my business bank account at that point. Okay. That's when you want to do all of that, in my opinion. Okay. Now, then that's when you start thinking about, okay, how do I build business credit? How do I do this? But start the business first. Start doing the business first, and then come back to it. And then the final step is, then you talk about scaling. Then that's when I recommend you start looking at, okay, how do I get to my first 100,000? Okay, after I hit my first 100,000, how do I get to the million? That's when I recommend you looking at those type of things, because that's when that's going to be helpful for you. But in the beginning, all it does is create analysis paralysis. Okay. So I know this has been a long one. I just want to wrap this up right here because I don't want this to be overwhelming. I'm going to recap the steps. Okay. 1, just figure out why you want to start a business. Pray about it. Ask God, like, hey, are you calling me to start a business? Number 2, once you figure out your why, now figure out how. Figure out the vision. Figure out which business model best aligns with what you're trying to do, and figure out what it is, what solution that you are solving for your target audience. Once you figure out that, now you're moving to step number 3, where you are doing your market research. I had to remember, sorry, y'all. So that's when you're trying to figure out, okay, what are the pain points of the market? How do I talk to them? What are they looking for? What do they need from me? Okay, how can my solution help them given their complaints? Or, like, are people willing to even pay money for this? Is this something that would be a nice to have, but people not willing to spend no buku dollars on? You know what I mean? Like those type of things. And then once you do that, that's when you want to start doing your marketing and your branding and like positioning yourself as somebody who has the solution for the world to come get, okay? So whoever your target audience, they need to you need to be making them know, like you need to make yourself known to them. They need to know you exist and they need to know that your product exists. Once you get a few people in your ecosystem, launch. Go ahead. You don't need a lot of people to launch. I'm about to launch whether I get 200 subscribers or not. Best believe I'm launching. Do you hear me? Okay. All right. So launch as soon as you possibly can with your minimal viable product. Like, don't do too much. Start with a very simple solution. See if people want that. If they don't want that, that's when you get into the reiterating stage, which is step number 6, I believe. Don't clock me. But step number 6, reiterate, redo, adjust based on whatever the market is saying they want or they don't want, right? Then that's when we get into the 7 where we want to set things up right. We want to legalize it. Don't start with an S corp. I know people are saying that. If y'all want me to do a video on that, I definitely can. I believe I already have videos about that, but don't start with S corp, please. Thank you. You don't need to be thinking about a trust right now unless you're just trying to do some family planning and making sure your family is set up straight. Okay. Then that's when I'm talking about trust. But we are not doing any trust to avoid taxes or anything like that. We're not doing that over here. Okay. So just focus on the LLC and getting your business bank account established and all that stuff right there. Right. Okay, cool. And then that's when we're talking about scaling and doing all the things and then figuring out how to actually run a business, right? Which has a whole plethora of other skills in which would need a whole another video in and of itself, because then that's when we want to look out the legal aspect, the copywriting, I mean, like the legal, the accounting, the HR, the people hiring, like the stuff that comes with actually building a business. We can focus on that at that point, but not when we first started. Just start, get it going as soon as possible. And I promise you, whatever God has for you is right around the corner and it's right on its way. All right. So please start today. Okay. You see how I tracked around there? Okay. That's it. That's all, y'all. Bye.